Hello everyone, Kerry the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a little project, stroke tutorial, inspired by Nicole at Relax.Cut.Glue, and no Nicole, I'm not doing that high note ever again. Mind you, should never say ever, should you? It must be about 6 weeks ago now, maybe a bit more, and I will link this in the description box below. Nicole did a video where she created something called a Gluefolio, which was a really cute little idea and I loved it. And I believe Nicole said she was inspired to make her version of it by another YouTuber called MayMayMakes. So what I'll do is I will link Nicole's video in my description box, and just to make sure that the right video has been linked, if you go to her description box, she has also linked MayMay's video in there. So it's a bit of a chain reaction. Now, since seeing the video, I've seen a few people do these. I really like these. Nicole made it as a Gluefolio. I think you could make it for a really nice little journal if you're traveling or something, just something of interest. So I thought I'd have a go. So what you'll need to make the base is 3 pieces of cardstock. Now these I cut from a 12 by 12 because I didn't have cardstock the right size. These are 225 GSM, not sure what that is in poundage, but 225 GSM. It's not massively thick, it's just your regular cardstock. It's going to be decorated and layered upon as well, so the laminations of different layers of card on there are going to thicken it up a bit anyway. So you need 3 pieces that are 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches long. Okay, now we're going to do some scoring on these. Okay, so I'm going to get straight into the scoring now, because then the rest is just construction. Now, I'm using a scoreboard. If you don't have a scoreboard, you could fold or score onto maybe a softer surface, but I'm going to take my first piece and I'm going to come in at 5.5. So that actually just means I'm folding this piece in half, and eventually that's what it's going to be. Now I press the crease into it, so that crease will then become what I call a peak in my world. I'm not used to scoring card this thick, so if you find your cards a little thick, you can always score it from either side. So your first piece is a book fold, basically. It's just folded in half. Then the next 2 pieces are going to be scored at 3, 9 and 9.5. So I've got it with the 11 inches along the top, so I'm going to come in with a 3, a 9 and a 9.5. I'm going to repeat that on the other one as well. So again, with 11 at the top, I'm going to come in and I'm going to score at 3, 9, 9.5. And that's pretty much all the scoring, except for the waterfall we'll do a little bit later on. So I'm just going to come in now, and as I said, I've scored the line in. So I personally like to make a valley into a peak. So I'm going to come in and fold all of those, give them a bit of a score with my, whatever this thing's called, score tool. Why am I not finding that score line? There it is. Try and make sure your card is lined up at the top and the bottom. As I said, if you find your cardstock doesn't score easily, you can always turn it over and score it from the other side. So we've got the first piece. Just going to repeat that with the second one. Hopefully I'm in shot for all of this. I'm trying to move relatively quickly. You all say you don't mind a longer video. I try to aim for an hour. There are videos coming up that are going to be an hour and a half long. I know that because I've already scheduled one. Right, so I now have my pieces that have got the 3 inch, they've got this score line here that's got a 1/2 inch spine to it. So what I need to do now is I'm going to, just for clarity, I'm going to line them up side by side. So they're exactly the same side by side. Yes, that is right. So just double checking what I'm doing. Now, what I need to do now is I'm going to start using art glitter glue. Now I'm using art glitter glue because it grabs quickly, and that's what I want to do. And what I'm going to do is this piece here is going to get stuck to the back of this piece here. Now you need to make sure you do it so that the spine can still fold up. Okay, just be aware that's an important thing, or your spine will bind up. So I'm going to move this towards me a bit. Just going to run art glitter glue along here. You of course could use double-sided tape for this. You could use any other glue you wish. I'm using art glitter glue because I know it's strong and it's quick, and I'm not going to have any problems with it. So I'm going to fold this up, come in. It doesn't give me much wiggle room, so I just want to make sure that it's all fully in place. Hopefully I've done that okay. If it is slightly off, you can always trim this a little bit later, but it's better to get it done right in the first place. I'll just come in with my score tool, make sure that's nicely scored down. So that gives us our first piece. See, I've missed it a little bit by there, so I don't know if you can see that. So afterwards I will just trim that down once I've done the whole thing. So that's my first piece done. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this piece, and it's going to come into here, and then this is going to be glued onto it as a pocket. So move my book fold to one side. I'm going to come in, I'm going to put a line along here just for security. Oops, missed the part card itself. Up the side, up the side. I'm going to bring my piece in, line it up the best I can, fold this over the top and press it down. So what I've now done is I've created a pocket here, and this folds over the top. This will then fold over there. So all I need to do now is I'm going to make this also into a pocket, and I'm just going to put a line of glue down either side of here to make sure it's glued in. Now if you do trimming, which I'm going to trim this little piece off here in a moment, if you do any trimming, double check your gluing, because you could inadvertently have trimmed off the glued section. So as you can see, I've just a little bit there. I think I'm going to pull my guillotine in, because as you know, I'm a person who uses a guillotine. Hopefully this isn't too long to go through here. It doesn't feel like it. Am I going to be able to do this? I'll do it that way. Okay, I'm just tidying up that very outside edge, purely because, me being me, I want it to be perfect. So if one side is slightly out, I know the other side is slightly out as well. Just ever so slightly. There you go. I would normally have probably not misjudged that, but it's very tricky when you're looking through an iPad at black card, trying to get things lined up, knowing the art glitter glue is very quickly drying on you. So let's just put the lid back on this. I'll put the pin in it anyway. So we now have the structure for our piece. That's not hard, is it, guys? Just double check, as I said, your pockets are still nicely glued. Did I glue that in the corner? No, I didn't. Just making sure that everything's nice and fitting. So this is our main construction. So what you've got is pocket, you've got a bit that folds over, you've also got a flap that comes this way. When the whole thing is done, this closes over the top. So now with the original, down here we have a spine. Now that spine to me is a little bit flimsy because we are going to sew in a signature. Now I do know that Nicole actually put in a strip of washi tape there to reinforce it. I want to be a little more strength than that. So what I'm going to do is I've already got a strip of the card. Now I know this is a 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my my ruler and do a strip that's just fractionally under a 1/2 inch. So just grab that. So if I'm looking at my ruler here, I've come to this measurement here. There's the 1/2 inch, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 2/8 or 1/16, I think it is. No, 1/8 or 2/16 less. So it's basically, I've just done it that much shorter. And I'm going to cut this one with a blade, purely because I can't get that exact on my guillotine. I know I'm going to fail at that, so I might as well just do it with a knife anyway. So just using an X-Acto knife. And before you say it, yes, I know my ruler is upside down. I prefer to use it in this direction because if I use it the other way up, that cork gives me a little bit of give underneath, whereas this, I've got something really good to press down against. So just want to check that this actually fits into this spine, because I'm going to be sewing through it. Yes, it does beautifully. Right, so just take that little bit off the end. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and glue that into place again, using art glitter glue. Am I in shot? I am in shot. Using art glitter glue because for me it's the best glue for the job at hand. As I said, you might not need to do this. If you're using a thicker cardstock, then you won't need to do it. I just want to make sure it's totally and utterly completely secure. So make sure I can still bend up the edges so I'm not binding anything up. That'll go invisible anyway, so let's put the lid back on here. Now, get myself a pair of scissors and just snip this off. Now, I did debate which colour cardstock was going to be the best for making this video. And it worked out. I thought if I do it in white, it's going to blow out the contrast. If I do it in black, it's going to equally as much cause problems. So I thought just making it in black, because we're going to decorate in a moment or two anyway. And I thought that way it's all done and dusted. So I've got a stronger spine here. Okay, so pocket, stronger spine, pocket, the book fold, that becomes a flap. This becomes a place. We're going to put a waterfall here as well. And then this gives me the back cover, which then folds over to the front. Now, as far as putting a seal on here, it will be completely up to you whether you use a Velcro dot, whether you put magnets in, whether you put an eyelet in there and do a tie around it. I'm not going to show you that because that's your personal choice as to how you have it. You could even just cut this whole piece off and just have it as a journal type closure. So, right, what's next? I think we will sew in the... Should we sew those in next? Let's sew those in next. So, right. Because this was originally used as a glue book, it didn't matter what colour the pages were. And I think for me, I'm probably going to use this as a travel glue book or even just as a journal. I could put coffee dye paper in, but I think I'm going to put in white paper in here because I like the drama of it. So I've got just regular paper here, 3, 4, 5 of them. And I'm going to fold these in half. Now these are British A4 size, which should fit perfectly in here. So I'm just going to fold them down the centre. I would say 5 is more than enough to put in here. Any more than that, you might struggle closing, especially if you're using it as a glue book, because of course your pages will get thicker the more you add to those pages. So I could have pre-folded all of these, but I thought, you know what? Everyone's always asking me to do things in real time, so we're doing it in real time. Well, as real time as I can make it without making the video so long that my upload time is enormous. So this isn't copier paper, by the way. This is what for me is called presentation paper. It's just slightly thicker. It's what I do. I print my digitals onto. It's what I turn into coffee dye paper. Now I need to make sure it fits in here. So if I put that in there, it's going to bind. So I'm going to take just a little bit off the edge here. Tap that all the way down. I'm going to hold it in place with a couple of these things because I use them all the time. So looking at the depth of this, I just need to work out how wide that is. So I'm going to give it a measure because each of us have different measurements to deal with. So that says it's 5.5. I think I'm going to go How far would 5 look? I think let's go to 5. I'm going to cut this down to 5 inches. So let's bring back in that cutting board. As you can see, I prefer to use a knife rather than a pair of scissors. So just grab a pencil. So I'm going to cut this down to 5. And 5. There's that steel ruler gone. So just lining those two up. And then I'm just going to, run my blade down. I'm not pressing hard because if I press hard and try to cut many sheets in one go, the thing's just probably going to tear or snag. But if I do several little strokes with my blade, as you can see, it gives me a nice, clean, neat edge. These can be stamped on. They can be made into word labels. So, right, I now have my 5-inch spine, my 5-inch signature, which should go into here. Let's take those off for a second. Which should go into here completely without binding. And I quite like the fact that there is a bit of a gap down there. That's fine with me. I could have gone to a little more, but as I said, I don't know what I'm going to put on these pages. If I wanted to put tabs or something, I now have the ability to do that. Now we're going to sew this in. So I'm going to grab my clamps again. And I want to make sure that all the papers are pushed right to the spine. And just putting the clamps on just to hold it all in place for me while I do the next pieces. Now this is the same system I use pretty much for sewing in a signature into a journal, because basically it is a journal as far as I'm concerned. So that's all nicely clipped in. Now I'm going to put this to one side and pierce the holes in this first with a little bit of a tidy up. Now I've got an old paperback book here that I use all of the time. Actually, there's one thing I do want to do is I want to put a letter T on there. I'll rub it out or erase it later. That just means if I swap it around, at least I've got it in the right orientation. Now I've got a book that I punch through into, and I'm going to use an awl. That's an AWL. It's a hole for punching holes in stuff. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to partially close my signature, and I'm going to put a hole relatively in the middle, and one about an inch from the top, and one about an inch from the bottom. I don't need them to be absolutely exactly measured because there's only the one signature going in. So that is good enough for me. Now I need to transfer those measurements to here. Now normally if it was a journal, I would punch from the inside to the outside. However, I want to punch from the outside to the inside on this one. So I'm going to come in, actually just work out where I'm going with this. That way. It needs to be that way. So I'm going to line my spine up, try to put the spine relatively in the middle. I am eyeballing this, guys, because it doesn't need to be any better than eyeballed. And then where my holes are, I'm trying to make sure it's better position. It is. Now you could draw a line down the middle. I'm not going to. I'm going to make a pencil mark, pencil mark, pencil mark. I can see my pencil marks. That's totally fine. I'm going to put this onto my book. I'm going to punch through where those are. And I'll show you why I want to punch from the out to the in a minute. Right, I punch from the outside to the inside because now when you look at the inside, you've got these raised pieces. Now I don't want these on the outside purely because when I start decorating this, I don't want any raised edges because I'm going to conceal the stitching by putting a panel down the back of that. So we're done with the book. We're done with the awl. I'm now going to pull out some black thread. Now you can use embroidery thread, you could use wax thread. This is quite thick thread. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to do 3 times the length of that. So that's 1, 2, 3. As my sister's gone. There you go. Now I'm using quite a robust needle, one that's got a reasonably large eye, so I can actually see to sew it, although black is going to be a bit of a tricky thing to sew, I should imagine, because I'm looking at black in black. I'm going to do a simplified version of a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. There are 2 different versions I do. This is the one that I like to do that's quicker. Well, I did that wrong, didn't I? I normally double my thread. For this one, I'm going to do single thread. Okay, so normally do double. I'm doing a single thread, not a double thread here, because I don't want the bulk on the outside. So I'm going to go through the central hole, and I'm going to through the central hole in that spine, and it pulls through. I'm going to pull this piece down so it's actually held at the bottom, so I've got something to control it by. I'm going to come in through the bottom. I normally pull it through the spine, and then I'll thread it through the hole. Once that's in place, I'm going to go all the way to the top again, go out through the hole at the top, pull that quite firm. Now remember, we're holding this piece tight, or taut at least, because you don't want to split the thread coming back through. It's probably not likely you're going to in this instance, because what we've got here is quite a simple, it's only 6 pages. So let's tug this other end through. So now I've got my thread here. I'm going to put the needle through, so I've got thread on either side. Take my needle off, put it out the way so Kerry doesn't stab himself. Now, I wanted longer threads to try and make these kind of even, and that's because I want to put some charms on the end of here, I think. Just get that little more. There you go. So more than enough room. I could bow it. I could have got away with less thread, but I think we're doing okay. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to tie a single knot. Make sure it's relatively taut. It is quite tight. I'm going to tie another knot here. Now, depending on you, you could tie this in a bow in the center. As I said, I'm going to leave those dangle down because I might want to put charms. I do need to trim those just slightly off at the bottom. So that's now put in the pages into this. Now, as you can see, I put 6 pages in. The geography of the book so far is we have a pocket. We need to rub that out. Get my eraser. So we've got the pocket, we've got the 6-page signature. This flips open with the other pocket. This flips across. This is where we're now going to build a waterfall, and this is where the closure is. So see, at any point you can adapt or change this to your needs. But I really like this. I think this is a really clever, quick idea. Now, let's put this to one side for a start, and then we'll look at the waterfall. Now, the waterfall Nicole originally did, she did 7 pieces, and then later on she added another piece. So I'm going to do 8-piece waterfall here. Now, I'm going to save, I'm just using something colourful for this. So I think what I'm going to do is think of what I want for the cover. I think I want this for the cover. So I need 8. Let's see, probably that's really making your eyes go funny, isn't it? So I can probably get 2 out of each. So that's 2, 4, 6. Oh, let's go with that one, 8. Is that blue and green, blue and green? Is that too much, do we think? Actually, yes, because all of the colours were represented, so I need to put a red in there. Let's put the polka dot in here. If I can pick the polka dot up. So what we need to do now, as I get all of this off my work table, is I now need to cut these into 5.5 by 5.5 inch squares. So I will do that as quick as I can. And actually what I might do is I might pause the video and come back when they're all cut, or I might just speed it up. 5.5 by 5.5. So here we go. I've got some scraps, as I said. These could be tags, these could be used for tabs on pages, these could be used for journal cards to go into those pockets. So I'm going to keep these in a basket so I've got all the same colours together. And then I've got my 5.5 by 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what I need to do now is I'm going to round the corners on the bottom corner. So I'm just going to come in with 2 of the corners. I'm using the 7mm corner. You can use whichever one you want. Now with this one I might, do I want to change it? No, I might keep those all the right orientation. But it might just make my eyes go a bit blurry. I think these zigzag ones are going to give me a migraine if I'm not careful. So, and of course, if you don't have a corner rounder, you can just snip the corners just to give you a bit of an angled finish to them. Now what we need to do now is we need to take all of them with the rounded pieces and we need to score them. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to put the rounded pieces to the one edge. Do I need to fold it this way? I need to fold it that way. And I'm going to score it at 5 inches. I'm going to do that with every single one of them. So effectively I'm making a 1/2 inch fold at the top of each of these because we're going to make these into a waterfall effect, which is a great place for maybe putting photographs, maybe putting little notes. If you're someone who doodles or sketches, maybe this is a nice place to put stuff. Or it could just be little tiny bits of glue book work that you wish to put in there. Right, move the scoreboard out the way. So I'm just going to come back in, fold those over. I'm just going to thumb press them down at this point in time. Now, it's at this point you sort of need to decide which order you want your papers to be in. If there's a specific pattern you like at the top, whether you want them repeating the pattern. I mean, you could have done them all the same side, all the same design. I just chose 3 different because, as I said, the paper I'm going to use to decorate the outside has got each of these colours in it. So for me, that was a nice touch, just to tie it all in together. Right, I like to do a sort of dummy run. So by that I mean I want to make sure I know which one is going to be my bottom one. And I just like to lay them out so that I've got some semblance of order. I don't really want to put the red next to the green, so I'm kind of steering away from that. Actually, I want that one on top, so if that one's on top, then this one needs to be on bottom. There you go. So in my mind now I know how all that works, which is it's better to do a dummy run. Now these are all going to be attached to this page here, and the most important one is the very first one you attach. Now as you can see, by having a 5 inch, you do have probably less than 1/4 inch down either side, and it's important that you equally space it. So I'm going to come with my art glitter glue. Now I'm going to turn this on its side so I can actually see the placement due to the camera. Come with my art glitter glue. Now as I said, you could do this with double-sided tape. You could do it with another brand of glue that maybe would give you a little more slip time. So I'm going to bring this up to absolutely as close to that top edge as I can get it, but I've left just a mere little smear or smidgen of a line of black at the top, just so it's not that visible. So pull this up to the top, That's nicely done. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my next one and keep adding them below that. So there may be another way to do a waterfall. This is the way I saw Nicole do it. I liked this version. I do wish I'd stop getting glue on that bit. I like this version, so I'm sticking with it. Again, butted up completely to the previous one. Work quite quickly, as I said, because the glue sticks, which is just what it's supposed to do, and fold it up. So it is a repeated process, but it is quite a quick repeated process. Feel free to fast forward. Try not to get glue on everything you're touching as well. Oh, and if anyone's wondering about the plaster on my hand, don't worry, I didn't slip with a knife or something. I spent about 6 or 7 hours yesterday working in the garden. This is a blister from sawing tree branches, I can tell you. Trying to get on up branches and tree roots. I was trying to get this old bush out of the garden. And I can tell you, getting the stump out of the ground is not easy. I didn't succeed in getting the stump out, but hopefully I've done enough that it's not going to grow back again, let's put it that way. I just need to keep an eye on it. It's absolutely beautiful weather here in Wales at the moment. I thought, you know what, the garden really needs a work over. So basically I've given the whole garden a facelift. Not my intention. And when I woke up this morning, believe me, my body did know that I'd been digging and lifting and hauling and everything. I was going to do cementing on walls as well this morning. And when I felt how my back was feeling this morning, I was like, I don't think we're going to do that today. So now, of course, each of the different sections of this folio, which I'm going to call it a folio, not a Gluefolio, because I'm not sure what the intent is going to be for it, but it was inspired by Nicole's Gluefolio. You could adapt or change. You could not put the waterfall in. You could put another signature in the back. You can put pockets here instead. There are lots and lots of different things you can do depending on what your intended use is for it. Hopefully I've done that so it's all straight. As we know, working through an iPad is not the easiest when you're not looking directly at something. So as you can see, by doing them at 5 inches, you'll get them all the way down to the bottom without them sticking out at the bottom. Although I've got a little bit of there, which I'm going to shave off. I'm going to run my blade along that one. I'm just going to take a slither off there. I must have gone a little awry somewhere in my gluing, because the measuring was perfect. I know I've already made one of these guys, so I know that the measurements work perfectly. Nicole was very exact about all of that, and it worked beautifully. Which one did I use? It's a 7, wasn't it? So there you go. So if you do miss glue, or you're not exactly at the right angle all the way down, that's the way to fix it. Just take the sliver off the bottom. So now I have that all there. I've got this all done. So basically, if you didn't want to decorate it, this is where it is finished. I'm now going to put stuff into this, as in I'm going to decorate the cover. I'm going to and put the top on my glue, have I? I'm going to decorate the front and the back. I'm going to decorate the spine, just to turn it more into something more pleasing to look at. So that's the basis. So if you want to stop watching now, by all means, this gives you what we're looking for. As I said, this will be whatever you wish it to be. I know that look at Nicole's video, you will see that she's decorated, she's collaged, she's built it up, she's got collage there and there. If you're someone who's using this for a journal, you could put 2 pockets on there, tuck stuff in. Again, you could make that into writing space or more pockets. You could do the same here, add stuff to there. You could maybe do another flip out, but I really like that as it is. So I'm now going to carry on, and I'm going to carry on and actually build the front and the back cover. So it's going to be a little bit of measuring, a little bit more cutting, but it's not going to be painful, I'm sure. So let's get a metal ruler out because I'm struggling to see through that one. So right, so if this was 8.5, I think I'm going to cut at 8.25, and this is 6 inches, so that'll be 5 3/4 by 8.25. So 5 3/4 by 8.25. So let's do. So if this is 8.25, that would be the height. Oh, my page is already 8.25. There you go. So how much did I say that was? I've already forgotten. 5 3/4. Oh, this is the thing with this cutter, because I can never. That's 5 3/4, I think. So I need a front panel. I need a back panel, and I think I'm going to use the same inside as well, potentially. If not, at least I know it'll be the right height. And actually one of these needs to be for the spine as well. So, well, I've got this here. Let's see how much that spine is. So the spine is, I'm going to do it a little bit under 1/2 inch. So that's 5 3/4. I need to come to about. It's not good. I have to do this with a pencil. Sorry, I'm a bit numbers challenged, guys. You may have noticed. Numbers don't always make sense to me. So I'm just going to come in a little bit less than there. Right. There you go. So that will fit down there beautifully. Maybe I want to make it a little bit smaller than that. Talk about Mr. Procrastination. Oh, biscuit and the postman. Haven't had biscuit and the postman for a while, have we? Will this one be a better fit, do we think? Yes, I think that will. Right, let's put that one out of the way so I don't get confused. This can go to one side. So I'm just going to use art glitter glue to stick these on. You can actually use whichever glue suits you best. I mean, I would probably normally use a glue stick on these to stick them down, but just, or shall I do that? Let's do this with the glue stick. It gives me a little bit more wiggle room, doesn't it? I'm having an indecisive day. So I'm just going to take a regular glue stick. I use this brand. You can use whichever brand you wish. So this just means that if I use, oh, you can tell it's a warm day. My glue stick's way, way soft. If I'm using a glue stick, it means, unlike art glitter glue, I will have a little bit of wiggle room when I get to put this down, so that if I'm slightly not squared off, I will be once this goes on. So bear with me, I just need to focus on this while I'm doing it. And I was actually going to round the corners of this. I guess I'm not doing that now. So so that's the front cover done. Let's do the same with the back. As I said, you could have rounded the corners. I intended to, but obviously I got distracted, didn't I? I think what I will do, however, is the piece that goes down the spine, I will definitely use art glitter glue on that one, because it's going to be folded over the top of the thread. Let's pull this in. Put that down on there. Is that square-ish? So it helps if I'm on screen, doesn't it? Lay this out. Hopefully I'm on screen for this. I feel like I'm a bit weird on here today. Right, so it gives me the front and the back are done. I do want to put that spine down there. So I'm just going to come in, where is it? Right, let's get the art glitter glue on this one. As I said, I want the art glitter glue purely because it's going over thread. On shot, I am on shot. Right. Lay that on there. Sorry about the weird angles. I'm trying to be able to see and do all at the same time. I'm going to press that down reasonably firmly because I want to make sure that the art glitter glue grabs, which it has. Now, should I do this here is the question. Where's that piece I cut that was too big? Wondering whether that would fit on there. It would fit on that. I think I'm going to go back to using glue stick for that one, because why not? I've never had problems with glue sticks. I know some people do, but I think I found a brand that I like, and I think a lot of the brands are kind of equal, to be honest. If they're meant to be permanent, they're going to be permanent. I think a lot of it is down to how you apply it. I'm quite heavy-handed with putting glue on. That's probably my anxiety making me do that, because it's a case of I don't want that coming undone. So I think the more you add, obviously the better the seal is going to be. Right, now do I want to put the same down there? I have a piece which I can do. Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's just give it a little bit of a mark. Just inside that mark. Now, you could have cut thumb notches. I didn't want to cut thumb notches purely because if I cut thumb notches in things, I've then got to get the thumb notch correct on there as well. I think that goes on there lovely. Just pulling my glue sheet again. So I hope you give this a try. If you're unsure, use up one of those 12 by 12s you don't like, or a few of the 12 by 12s actually, because you'll need 3 pieces of equal dimension. I'm trying to line that up there so that it looks like it's intentional. Okay, so that's thread down there. That's the basis for the outside done. So I've chosen white. Probably, maybe some of you will say that's not a wise colour for the outside, but I could collage the outside as well. I could put stuff onto it. Now I've got the one piece in here that I was thinking of adding onto one of these pages, which I could, if I chose. Do I want to add that on there? I don't know that I do want to add that on there. I quite like that as it is. I'm wondering whether I want to decorate these though. I think if I do them in the same as the rest of it, it was, you know me and my OCD, it feels better to do it all matching, but it doesn't need to be, guys. That's just my mentalness wanting to do this. So if I do 2 3/4, and if I cut the other one at 2 3/4, they both the same length? They are both the same length. So this is just designating the pocket. Now I might be able to cut a thumb notch in this after I've actually glued these on, but I don't want to stress my pocket too much by trying to get my punch underneath it. So it's completely up to you, the order in which you do it, or whether you even do a thumb notch at all. That's the edge of that pocket. And that's the reason why I wanted to do it with a glue stick and not art glitter, because I wanted to make sure that I could actually slide it around if I needed to. And there's the other pocket gone, there it is. Just fold this over because it's very, very gluey and I don't want glue on the outside of here. And we're almost done. So there you go. So how long has that taken me? It's taken me about 55 minutes to make one of them. And I'd actually already got my larger pieces of card cut out. But there you go. That's Nicole's Gluefolio. I do think, though, as a journaler, I could take that quite easily with me on my travels. I've got some pockets to put stuff into. I've got a pocket there. I've got a pocket there, so if I want to save documents as I go along, I could journal, I could collage onto these, I could write memories. On this here, I think what I would do with this is, if I was using a travel journal, is I would put pictures or memorabilia on there, or I would put it on there as a collage on a background and then write on the back. So there's lots of different uses for this. As I said, closure, you could put an eyelet through there, you could put a ribbon around it, you could just tie a piece of sari silk around it, you could put an eyelet there and do an elastic that goes all the way that way, you could put a little magnet. I think Nicole actually used, what did she use? Velcro dots on it. So hopefully you like that, guys. I will, as I said, put links in the description box below. It was a nice little make. I loved it. I'm probably going to make a few more of these as we go along. Tying charms on the bottom, finishing it all off. I think I'm going to really like that. I might put a feature there, actually. I might put something that looks like it should be the closure as well. Like, I think on one of Nicole's, she put a Tim Holtz butterfly there, so it had some more weight to it. Might do that. Not sure. So, hopefully you enjoyed that, guys. A little make. Go across and give Nicole some love and pop across to MayMayMakes and see her original version, because I know Nicole adapted the original to hers and I've pretty much duplicated, in fact I have duplicated Nicole's version. Nicole did make cards and journal cards and stuff to go in here for more glue book space. So, thank you very much, guys. I'm Kerry the Crafter. That's C-E-R-I the Crafter. Until next time. Bye-bye now.